Plus, a live look at Bourbon Street this morning. It's open again. It's been 2 days since the world woke up to the shocking news about the terror attack in New Orleans. Coming up, the latest, we're learning about the suspect involved in the investigation. Good morning. I'm Rochelle Turner in for Zach Lashway. KPRC-2 reporter Gage Goulding has been on the ground in New Orleans, bringing you the latest from the community. He joins us live to talk about what he's witnessed and how the community is feeling. He joins us live to talk about what he's witnessed and how the community is feeling after this attack. Gage, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Rochelle. I just really want to hone in on the fact that here along Bourbon Street, it just seems like a regular morning. We've seen the food and beverage trucks coming on in to restock these businesses. Actually, right behind the camera here, there's a construction crew that looks like they're doing some remodeling to one of the balconies, those iconic balconies that hang over Bourbon Street. And behind me, there's taxi cabs picking people up from the hotels. These are people that, many of which had to extend their stays or figure out another place to stay due to the Sugar Bowl being pushed back. You have to remember that's a huge game, college football playoff game that was hosted here at the Caesars Superdome here in New Orleans. It was scheduled to take place on the day that terror attack happened. It was postponed until yesterday, and we saw so many people donning the Notre Dame Irish colors and the Georgia Bulldog colors, and so many folks that, both were a little, concerned about what happened, but also knowing that New Orleans right now is probably one of the safest places in the country. But it's very much so, just business as usual. But in this very area that we're at right now, just about 72 hours ago, it was mass carnage. Rochelle?
Tell us what this experience has been like for you and photojournalist Oscar Chavez these past few days.
I've covered several, many, I would say, situations just like this, and it never gets easier. You talk to these people. New Orleans is a city, if you've ever been here, this is a city that has a lot of pride. There's a lot of pride, there's a lot of spirit, there's a lot of celebration. After all, Bourbon Street is one of the most historic party streets in the nation. But the folks here, they've been kicked down before. They know what that's like. This is nothing new for the city of New Orleans and its people, but they know how to get back up, and that's what helped them kind of rebound. I spoke with several people. One guy that actually had a T-shirt that said, "Love is stronger than hate." I said, "Did you just make this for today?" He's like, "No, I've had this for 2 years because, here, when you're on Bourbon Street, it doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are, what sexuality you are, what your political views are. You're here and we're having fun and we're partying." And that's kind of the vibe that this city has, and that's the idea that this city has. Last night, Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick of the New Orleans Police Department out here riding along this very street in a little golf cart, talking to people, going around to the officers, many of which that have been working nonstop, giving them hugs, just, being out with the community. That's what it's been like. It's been like a giant reunion, that the establishments are back open, the party is going on, they're celebrating the life, mourning those that have been lost. But, seeing that, it's different, more different than anything I've ever seen when covering these types of situations, because I've never seen such a quick rebound to almost like a party atmosphere. And that's been different. But, when we got here, to say this scene was gruesome and extensive is such an understatement, to the point where the hotel that we're staying at actually had to cover up all the windows that face Bourbon Street, closing the blinds, putting bed sheets over them, because it was sparing you the details. It was easily one of the most gruesome things that anybody could ever witness.
Oh my goodness, and you guys have been doing an incredible job keeping so many people informed here at KPRC. Talk about the security measures that are in place on the French Quarter, or what is it like?
Sure. Last night, right now the cars are driving down Bourbon Street. This is pretty typical for the morning, but last night, you could not turn around, look anywhere without seeing some sort of law enforcement. Doesn't matter who they were, what they were wearing, whether it was plain clothes or a uniform, or even in the camo donned with lawn guns. All of the roads, this is Bourbon Street. The streets around it were still blocked off. Canal Street is way down that way, and that's where the pickup truck and the terrorists kind of drove down this way, so coming from behind me and ultimately ending up kind of right where we're standing. There were barricades, the barricades that the police department superintendent said they weren't even aware that they had. They deployed those, and then using big dump trucks and pickup trucks and just massive pieces of equipment to physically block the intersections. Then on top of that, they had, SWAT vehicles, and one of the most interesting things we saw was like a Humvee with those officers on top, donning long rifles, just all, standing kind of in a high post, if you will, on horseback, via helicopter. So many helicopters yesterday. You remember Sugar Bowl with, Super Bowls type security, but also, in addition to this, it was gridlock. Trying to drive anywhere in and around New Orleans and French Quarters was absolutely miserable. But specifically here, I mean, easily the most police I've ever seen in one specific point at one time.
And Gage, we've already seen Houstonians trying to find ways to help the victims' families that were affected by this tragedy. Kind of talk about how the community is doing in New Orleans and how they feel after this.
That was one of the things we set out for yesterday, was to talk to the locals and see how they're dealing with this. After all, they're the ones that are impacted by this. If you're from New Orleans, Bourbon Street is a hangout. It's a weekend place. Many people make this a vacation to come here. But for people in New Orleans, this is a place where they come. This is a place where they can let their hair down or relax. Seeing it back open, I wasn't sure what they were going to be feeling, what the reaction was going to be. Many people said it was weirder seeing it closed and not hearing the music, not seeing the party, not seeing the smiles. That was weird to them. So having this back open was, a first step in their healing process, in, grieving. This isn't about forgetting what happened and let's get the money back into the business. That's not the case. They're grieving too. Every single business that we've stopped in, whether it's just for a bottle of water or a coffee or a meal, everybody was impacted by it. Many people were here, the hotel we're staying at. Some of the people working the front desk were here when this happened. So they're impacted by this. But, seeing this back open, seeing the guests, seeing people smile, seeing their friends. So many people have been coming up, people off the street, hugging the barista behind the counter. That's the energy. That's the atmosphere. That's the New Orleans way. I said it in a story yesterday, It takes great people to help a great community get back up when they're kicked down. That is New Orleans. There are great people here, and this is a great community. They know how to get back up. It's a city that, they move at their own pace. It's the city that CARE forgot. They move at their own pace, and right now that pace is helping one another, making sure they're showing love for one another.
They've been through so much, Gage, and we know this is still an active investigation, but have you been able to learn anything new from law enforcement?
A lot of details coming out in the first 48, 72 hours of this investigation. Not surprised there at all. But, as they continue to go forward, remember, they don't have a suspect that they can interrogate. And now that we know that Jabbar was working as a sole suspect, it's going to be, I see, more difficult. The other big thing that it's going to yield a lot of results, but it's going to take time to kind of crack open, is the technological aspect about this. Your phone has so much information on it, from tracking where you are, the pictures, the videos, the things that you delete, that forensic experts, the technological forensic experts can get, is incredible. So once they start cracking the code on this, Jabbar had 3 cell phones and a couple laptops. So once they start getting information off that, there could be additional details. There could be more information about, how this plan, this plot was formulated. Was there more down the road, and potentially could it lead to other different things? I know they said he was acting alone, but that's the current status of this investigation. I want to go back to the first press conference that the FBI and the NOPD had. They said this wasn't an act of terrorism. Then they, a couple hours later, they said, oh, this is terrorism. And then they said he's working with a group of people. There's several people, and then they're saying it's not. So what my point is that things will change throughout this investigation, and that's normal. That's okay. To answer your question in a nutshell, no, nothing crazy new overnight. But expect that, as I said from the get-go, this investigation isn't just going to take days. This is a weeks, months-long investigation. And some of those biggest answers that we want, the why, some of those we might not even get an answer to.
We know you'll stay on top of it for us, Gage. Thank you so much. Gage Goulding reporting live for us in New Orleans. And we're also